Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about why I'm in defense of Itas in Lolita fashion. So let's get into this crazy video. To start off, for anyone who isn't aware, the phrase Ita or Ita means ouch. It's hard to look at, basically, is where Ita comes from. So to call someone an Ita in Lolita is basically to say it's hard to look at them. It's hard to look at what they're wearing. That already is not a very nice thing to say about another person. It might be true. It might be a little hard to look at some cringy first attempts at someone trying to wear Lolita. But let's face it, we've all been there, right? We've all had a bad stage, and if you are somehow magically blessed with the ability to have come into Lolita fashion with so much knowledge about it that you've handpicked your first brand piece and the perfect shoes and the perfect socks because you read a lot of tutorials and you watched a lot of videos to make sure you got it just right for yourself, you will probably look back years later and think, wow, I could have done that coordinate better. So even if you think that you came into fashion,
oh, I wasn't an Ita when I came in.
Everyone's got their Ita stage, and I can say that your Ita stage is only determined by you, not by another person. Someone else might think your outfit is cringy, and you might not think it's cringy. Or, in fact, you know, you might think it's cringy, but it's only up to you to decide that. Let's go into why I am in defense of how it is necessary for there to be people in the fashion who are not so good to start. So we'll call them Itas for now. Okay? So the reason why I'm in defense of Itas is because, for a few things. The community of Lolita fashion is more or less like an ecosystem in a way. And all fashions, all communities, all creative endeavors have rough beginnings. That's the way it goes. And what makes it amazing to even have someone dressing poorly or dressing wonderfully, either way, is the fact that someone is brave enough to put themselves out there and to try. Okay, my first coordinate was terrible. I went to an aquarium meet. I wore baby pink and baby blue with each other. It was all bodyline. I literally mixed pink and blue. It was really crazy. It was like a blue polka dot dress with like a baby pink little bolero. And I had a huge bow on my head. I had the big waist bow that from Bodyline, and I put it on my head. And I did not look that great. I thought my coordinate was really good though. I thought, wow, you know, for getting into Lolita fashion, I'm not having to hand make my dress or use some kind of square dancing dress that I found at the thrift store or something that's vintage that looks kind of Lolita-esque. You know, I actually got like a Bodyline, which is like a low tier, you know, the Walmart of Lolita, as most people like to call it. You know, I have something that's at least somewhat considered Lolita for the fashion. And I can tell you that, yeah, 4 years later, not even 4 years later, like 2 years later, I looked back and I had grown so much and I'd seen how much I improved. Once again, whether or not other people thought I was an Ita, I don't know, they probably did, because we all go through that stage, but it didn't matter. It didn't even matter if I think I was one, if I can look back and see that I had that stage, because that's the thing. There is no such thing as like a person is either an Ita or they're not. When you're in the fashion, what it is we all start off in a stage that's more or less an Ita. Even if your coordinate is fairly good, there's probably room for improvement. Honestly, there's room for improvement in the name Ita. We should come up with something better, like just call them newbies. Just call them newbies. That's what they are. They're newbies. They're newbies putting cat ears on with their outfits because they don't know where to find the cute cat ears that are actually appropriate for the outfit. The other reason why I'm in defense of Itas is because since Lolita is more or less like an ecosystem, and what I mean is we're talking about the buying aspect of it is like an ecosystem. You've got people who are new coming into the fashion, and they just want to get their hands on something that's Lolita. It doesn't matter if it's a lace monster, it doesn't matter if it's Bodyline, it doesn't matter if it's some thrifted thing that could barely pass for Lolita. Back in the day, especially 4 years ago when I was really getting into the fashion, 4 or 5 years at this point, I would have done anything to get my hands on Lolita, and I couldn't afford to buy brand for $100 or $200. So I would buy the cheapest thing I found that was Loliable, as people like to call it, okay? And so that meant that as someone who has little amount of knowledge as to what looks good, for myself and little idea of how to coordinate, and has basically just limited options in terms of what I could afford. And at the time there was limited shops that could sell decent things that were Lolitable or actual Lolita. That meant that I was more or less forced to buy things that were, I either had to buy stuff that wasn't quite Lolita or I had to hand make a lot of my stuff, which I did actually opt for the route of hand making because I wasn't satisfied with the selection of things that were under $100 that I could afford. So the good thing about there being newbies in the fashion, or Itas as people call them, is that when you've gone through your Itas stage and here you are a few years later and you're doing a wardrobe clean out, you're going to find your old lace monster or you're going to find your old bodyline piece and you're going to do one of two things with it. You're either going to be very nostalgic and you're going to keep it, or you're going to go, wow, I can't believe there was ever a time in which I wore this. I think it's time to sell it. And when you go to sell it, you're going to be happy and glad that there are newbies getting into the fashion who need that thing that's a little cheaper and they don't quite have an eye for what looks good on them yet, for basically you giving them that opportunity to, they buy it from you and they're going to figure out if that's something that works for them or not. If you sit there and you shame people or you tell, you know, you're one of those people that's like, I don't want there to be someone who doesn't know how to dress properly in the fashion, then when it comes time that you do that wardrobe clean out for things that you're embarrassed that you wore, no one's going to buy it. There's not going to be anyone to buy it, okay? So the other good thing about where we're at currently in the market with Lolita is that places like my Lolita Dress and Devil Inspired, they are giving great affordable options to newbie Lolitas so they can actually buy things and wear it in the fashion and not have to start off with something like a square dancing dress or hand making something that they don't quite have an eye for, or an old bodyline piece. You know what I mean? They have the opportunity to get something that's a little bit better than that quality or that style. So some of this you could say is kind of dated in terms of, I don't think that newbie Lolitas or Ita Lolitas are necessary just so you can clear out your wardrobe. I think that it's just one of those things where it's a stepping stone, it's a milestone. Maybe because I grew up more in the art community than I did in Lolita, and I also had a lot more cosplay experience previously, but there was just a larger acceptance, at least at the time, in the early 2000s, that having someone start out not that good and watching them improve was something to admire and to cheer on and to be supportive of, and not to throw negativity or hate that way. Because as I've said previously in another video, hate and just shaming someone or making someone feel bad about their decisions that might not look that good is not a way to help them, and they will definitely not learn. And so if you feel that someone isn't doing something right in the fashion, you can tell them. Find something you like about it. So, okay, if we're going to use Kim's optimistic tactic number one, even if the coordinate is not that great, find the one thing you do like about it, because it's one of those things where, first of all, if you give unwarranted or unsolicited advice, you know, that's not really nice. So you don't have to come up and be like, I see you're new, you could improve upon your outfit like this. I would say instead, be like, hey, I see you're new, I really like blah, so pick something that you like about it. And I've always found, you know, it's a lot nicer to use that approach, because if you choose to look at things through the lens of optimism, then it will only benefit everyone. Not only are you going to be helping that person feel less insecure about their first attempt at something that was probably very difficult for them to muster up the courage to do, to put on this crazy fashion, as we all know, but also it's not going to hinder them from getting better just because you say you like one aspect of their outfit. Okay? Even if it's the only aspect of their outfit you like, if it's just the one headdress they're wearing, you say, I like that headdress, they're going to feel good about themselves, and when they come back, I'm sure that they'll try harder, and you will see them progress, and you will see them grow, and you'll see them get better and better. You know, you can actually feel like you helped attribute to that person's self-esteem and well-being because you chose to find the one good thing that you did like about their style. Maybe it will help them develop their style. by seeing, like, say like that they always do really good, they always wear a good choice of headdresses, or say like they always have a really good eye for color, but maybe not so much coordination. You can tell them that. You can say you have a really good eye for color. And it's going to be one of those things where by reflecting on them that you see a good trait in them, they're going to start doing that more. And it's just going to help them improve even more. So it's one of those things where I think that we should look at newbies as this beautiful sort of like budding learning experience, because we've all been there. And I'm sure that when girls were nice to you when you were in the early stages, that you appreciated a lot too. It's not the girls that were negative or nasty to you that you're gonna go, I'm so glad they told me I looked terrible. I'm 100% sure you're not saying that to yourself. It's the girls that said, I like that headdress, or I really like that you have a good eye for color. And don't say it sarcastically. We're not talking about mean girls level. We're not going for that whole, you give them the whole one of these where you look it up and down and go, oh, I really like your shoes, and then walk away. That's not acceptable. That's not what we're doing here. And no, that doesn't constitute as you finding the one nice thing to say. I'm talking about genuinely finding something about their outfit that we like, because guess what? We're all in the fashion because we love something about it, right? So if we're all in the same fashion because we love something similar about it, then that's the thing that you can use to help facilitate a conversation or a compliment. Okay, so for me, I can always say that I got into Lolita fashion because I have an eye for detail. I love the detail that would be put into these extravagant dresses, whether that's the lace detailing, the prints, the graphic design aspect of it. I love the detail. So whenever I would look at someone's piece, especially if they had a very extravagant piece, I would find the part that had the most amount of lace or ruffles, and I'd be like, that's a really extravagant piece. I really like that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, you know? So yeah, remember, go at it with kindness. Remember that if you want Itas to not exist, or if you want there to be less of them, you can kill them with kindness, but it has to be genuine kindness, because that kind of viewpoint really will help facilitate positivity in the community, and you will watch people flourish before your eyes, and they will progress so much faster than if you shame them, or if you were mean to them, or if you're passive or passive aggressive, or if you try to say things via online places like EGL or behind the bows. They're not going to get the memo. It's not going to get through to them the way you wish that it would. And you know, if you're afraid to be direct with someone who's new in the fashion, you're worried they'll lash out at you and tell you, well, it's my first time, what do you expect? That's why I say, don't come at them with criticism, don't come at them with the unwarranted advice. Come at them with kindness, pick something you like about their outfit, you know, and go with that. I'm going to touch on one more note here. If you have a meetup of some sort and you required a dress code or a certain theme, and you have someone who does not abide by that theme or dress code, and because they are new to the fashion, this is one of those things where if you are the event hoster or a co-host, or even if you're not either one of those, it's okay to approach the person and say, hey, this was a themed event. Were you aware? And just ask them. You don't have to say, it was a themed event, you're not wearing the theme. They might tell you, I was new to the fashion, I got so excited to see there was a meetup, and I didn't have time to buy a piece that was themed to it, but I just really wanted to attend. And by asking them a question, you might actually get a little more of an insight as to why they came to an event not dressed themed the way that you would think, as opposed to assuming that they didn't dress that way because of various slew of mean reasons, like they're dumb, or because they don't understand the fashion, or because they're, you know, too poor to afford something mean like that. Forget all that. It's probably some perfectly benign excuse that any one of us would have if we were excited and we saw a really cool meetup was in our area. So, and if you are the person who hosted the event and you required it, if it was a mandatory thing that people come to the event wearing a themed piece, you can just very politely tell them, hey, this was a themed event. I'll let it slide this time, but next time, if you're going to come to a themed event, you make sure that you dress with the theme because it is mandatory. if you have items, say like you have stuff on consignment being sold at the event, you can also direct them towards that and say, if you're new to this and the reason why you didn't, if that's the reason why you were not able to wear something themed to it, and don't assume, always ask them why they came to the event unthemed. Just direct them towards it and say, well, you know, it's a good thing we're selling items on consignment here, and maybe that'll give you an opportunity to expand your wardrobe so you can have something that is themed for it next time. That's perfectly acceptable too. That way you're sort of helping the person, you're guiding them, you're giving them a positive insight on what they can do next time, you know? And definitely don't make it strict, like they're new, they made this mistake once, you don't just straight up ban them from your event. You tell them next time they need to come dressed in the fashion. And I would say if they go to your next event and they do not come themed and you've already told them once, feel free to choose as you may, do what you will, you know, at that point they've been told. But if it's their first time, I'd say it's good to cut them some slack. So I'm going to get going, guys. I will talk to you later, and thank you guys for watching my video. If you have some stories about your first time being in Ita and Lolita fashion, I would love to hear about it. So tell me about your stories about being in Ita. I can elaborate on mine in another video if you're interested. Let me know if you want to see a video on that, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.